3 more weeks of regular season football, and the Packers are climbing up the power rankings. And so are the Vikings, but we don't talk about them. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't, how do you Packers fan, but it sure does up. I'm your host, Tom. We beat Seattle in Seattle, and now my trauma is gone. I wish. Grossi, and today we are going to be breaking down and ranking the top 10 teams heading into week 16. That's right, folks. We literally only have 2 more Thursday night football games. We got a couple more Monday night football games, and then the one in the playoffs, but we'll talk about that later. And that's it for the regular season. And so things are coming down to the wire, the nitty gritty, if you will. And before we get into the top 10, I got some honorable mentions this week. The first honorable mention is going to be the new leaders of the NFC West, and that is going to be the LA Rams. The Rams, after taking down the Buffalo Bills after Josh Allen went Superman and had 6 touchdowns, followed that up with a 0 touchdown performance against the San Francisco 49ers in a game that was a game. But you got to give some credit to the Rams, because a healthy Rams team, especially on offense, is a dangerous Rams team. And this team, if they make the postseason, which I think they will, has potential to shake things up in the NFC. I think they're more than capable of winning a wild card matchup, and who knows, depending on who they're going to play in that following round, if they win, they could find themselves even in the NFC Championship game. Again, a lot of things need to happen. There's still some games that need to be played in order for the Rams to even win their division, but I got to give them a shout out, because after the Seahawks lost, they are now in control of their fate in the NFC West. And so because of that, an honorable mention. And the second team I got to give a shout out to is the Houston Texans. The Texans coming out of a bye and defeating the Miami Dolphins. The offense, pretty good. I would like to see a little bit more, but the defense was really, really good against Miami. And now they have clinched the AFC South for the 2nd year in a row. So you did not see an AFC South collapse like we have been seeing for the past few years. And so the Texans deserve some credit here. I still am not completely and totally sold on them right now, but they deserve at least the credit of an honorable mention. They won their division. They'll be fighting in the postseason. And who knows, from there, maybe we'll see some Stroud magic. And getting into our top 10, starting off with number 10, in the same spot as last week, you got the Denver Broncos. The Broncos coming away with a win against the Indianapolis Colts in, well, let's just say it wasn't a pretty game. They were trailing in that game for a while. Bo Nix did not look so good, but then he turned around and looked pretty damn good. They also got some help from Jonathan Taylor, who for whatever reason fumbled before crossing the plane. But the big story has been that defense. Oh, that Broncos defense is looking real good. And Nick Bonito took another one to the house and is well on his way to taking the Broncos to the postseason.
Casa Bonita, food and fun in a festive atmosphere. Casa Bonita, who said I'm inviting you?
And taking a look at the current playoff picture, right, there's potential that you're going to see the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs in the AFC playoffs. And especially with divisional matchups this year, the Broncos, I think, could cause some havoc in the postseason. Their offense, there's definitely room for improvement, right? Bo Nix is a rookie QB. Their lack of run game is problematic, and they need more weapons on that offense. But Sean Payton has done a great job this year getting Bo Nix to where they need to be in playoff contention. We're talking about that defense throughout this year, which, again, considering last year they had 70 points score on them, and they've just gotten better and better, even though that's a really low bar. That is commendable. And so the Broncos right now, it's all optimism as they head into the final 3 weeks of this season. If everything goes well, they'll be clinching that playoff spot sooner rather than later. They have a huge game on Thursday against the LA Chargers. And right now, Broncos country, you're riding. Number 9, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Excuse me, Baker Mayfield. I was not familiar with your game. Good God! Baker Mayfield had a 4-touchdown performance against one of the best defenses in the league so far this year, and that was against the Chargers. And the Chargers did not have a prayer. Bucky Irving looking good. And while we've been criticizing the Buccaneers defense as of late, they did a really nice job against Justin Herbert and that Chargers offense. Again, they didn't have J.K. Dobbins, which obviously makes a huge difference, but the Buccaneers deserve a ton of credit here. And Mike Evans, holy crap, man. Not only a phenomenal game on Sunday, but he ain't letting that 1,000-yard season streak get away from him just yet.
I'm leaving here with something. You know what I mean? I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.
I love Mike Evans. And listen, Todd Bowles, who there's definitely been some criticism about him on this show in the past, and I don't think he's the greatest head coach, but he deserves a lot of credit as well. Considering Godwin has been out, Mike Evans was out for a stretch, and they're still at this point where they're not only favorites within the NFC South, but they're another team that could cause some problems in the playoffs. I think right now the Buccaneers are a hot team, and they're going to go as far as Baker Mayfield is going to take them. Mayfield has had some turnovers these past few weeks, but looked phenomenal on Sunday. If they can keep that streak going, they will be NFC South champions. And from there, who knows? But the Buccaneers moving on up in the power rankings to number 9. Number 8, you got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. The Packers, after a few infamous games that I'd rather not talk about, the Packers finally won in Seattle.
Vindication!
Toyotathon Jordan Love. Bow down and witness him. Another flawless game from Love on Sunday. That offense was clicking. Josh Jacobs continues to play really damn well. I am so glad we got him. And that defense. Oh, the defense was so good. Not only causing turnovers with a couple of interceptions, but on top of that, 7 sacks. And I know it's against the offensive line of the Seahawks, which is not so great. And I know Geno Smith got banged up in that game. But the Packers defense has been playing really damn well, especially against the run. Zach Charbonnet had 1 score and 1 big run on Sunday night, and that was about it. And for the past month or so, this Packers run defense has really started to lock things down. And again, the Packers defense is excelling even without guys like Jair Alexander and Javon Bullard. We'll see if they're going to be ready to go next Monday night against the New Orleans Saints, a very winnable game for the Packers as they got their 10th win on Sunday night. And while the division is going to be really difficult for the Packers to capture, the Packers are 1 win away from getting into the postseason, and they're starting to heat up. Like I said, Jordan Love's been playing really damn well. He has not thrown an interception in multiple weeks, and right now, as a Packers fan, I could not be happier with where they are right now. The Lions right now dealing with a ton of injuries. The Packers have a big game against the Vikings in a couple of weeks, which will be real interesting to see, especially for seeding purposes. But for right now, the Green Bay mother-loving Packers go up 1 spot after vanquishing the demons that were the Seattle Seahawks, and they're sitting at number 8. Number 7, you got the Baltimore Ravens. There's no movement for the Ravens this week, not going up or down because listen, they're playing the Giants. But good God, did not matter who they were playing against because Lamar Jackson had himself a day. Another 5 passing TD performance. And you even had Lamar Jackson trying to keep his pants up while running away from defenders.
I won't be needing these. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
I wonder if he would run faster without pants. But that Ravens offense looked really good against a really bad Giants defense. And again, there's not going to be any movement in the power rankings for the Ravens because the Giants are one of the worst teams in football. But the Ravens did exactly what they were supposed to do. They beat the team that was in front of them. They keep on rolling on. They got some really important games coming up, like this Saturday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if the Steelers don't have TJ Watt, though it seems like there is some optimism that they will, oh boy, the Ravens could get a big-time win against the current AFC North Division leaders. And so the Ravens coming off a bye, knocking down the Giants. They deserve some credit for that. They remain at number 7 in the power rankings. We'll see what they look like when they get to the playoffs. But right now, Lamar Jackson just keeps on flying. Number 6, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Moving down a couple spots is Pittsburgh because oh boy, that was a bit of a rough game against the Philadelphia Eagles. The offense just couldn't get things going against Philadelphia. No George Pickens was definitely a problem in this game. And Russell Wilson at the very end was just waiting for a chance to get that ball back in the 4th quarter.
I'm ready! I'm ready!
And and it never came. And you got to give a huge shout out to the Eagles because that final drive, which lasted over 10 minutes, was insanely impressive. And the Steelers, I'm not going to drop them too much, and I'm not doom and gloom on the Steelers because right now they're still leading the AFC North. They have everything in front of them, even though they're going to be going through a gauntlet. And they got to play 3 games in a shortened time span, so that is going to be difficult. But the Steelers, I still think, are a gritty damn football team who are going to make the postseason. And once they're there, I believe in Mike Tomlin to potentially beat any team in the postseason. I think nobody really wants to play the Steelers right now just because their brand of football is, well, it's Steelers football if you've ever seen it. And as long as Russell Wilson's able to play well and TJ Watt is healthy, which, again, there's optimism that he's going to play on Saturday, this Steelers team is still a contender. We'll see how far they go once they make the postseason. But for right now, the Steelers drop beneath the top 5 at number 6. And for right this second, Steelers go to Super Bowl, but they're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. Number 5, you got the purple incarnation of Satan. You got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings dominating the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. And listen, the Bears kept it close last time, but this time, not so much.
Hey, look at you. You're cute.
And the Bears just had no answer for the Vikings. I mean, they had multiple opportunities to score, but they just could not get it done, whether they're playing a center as a fullback and getting a touchdown revoked, Caleb Williams running for his life, or just not seeing open receivers. The Vikings defense was making Caleb's life pretty darn miserable. And while it wasn't the prettiest game from either side, the Vikings deserve a lot of credit for their record right now. Sam Darnold, he missed a few throws, but also had some darts on Monday night against what is still a pretty solid defense. And overall, the Vikings are in really good shape as they clinched a playoff spot on Sunday night, thanks to the Packers, because you couldn't even do it yourself. And yes, I'm taking every shot I possibly can at the Vikings. But the Vikings, like I said, made the postseason. That's the most important thing. They still have their eyes set on potentially the number 1 seed and or the NFC North, which is very possible for them to win. The Vikings just need to win out, and they are NFC North champions. And the Lions, they're going through it right now. And so with a good run game led by Aaron Jones and Sam Darnold playing good football with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, I don't know how far they're going to go in the postseason, and I think a lot of Vikings fans are just kind of waiting to see what this team is going to look like against some fiercer competition. But right now, the Vikings punched their ticket to the postseason. They got a couple big games coming up, one in a couple weeks against the Packers, and then closing the season against the Lions, where we'll really see what these Vikings are made of besides, pure evil. Number 4, you got the Kansas City Chiefs climbing up in the top 5 once again. The Chiefs, you done did it. You finally won a game by 2 scores.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
The blood pressure of Chiefs Nation finally went down this past Sunday and then went back up as they saw that Patrick Mahomes got injured in that game with a high ankle sprain, though the last time he had a high ankle sprain, they won the Super Bowl, so I guess there's not too much pressure there. But the Chiefs put together a really nice game against the Cleveland Browns. I know there's been a lot of talk about their offense, and it hasn't been looking very good, but Hollywood Brown coming back should definitely help out that offense. They just released Clyde Edwards-Helaire because now they got Isaiah Pacheco back. Of course, they got Kareem Hunt. And again, once they get to the postseason, all bets are off. Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, they know how to win in the postseason. And if you want evidence for that, just look at the past 2 seasons when they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. However, I do think the Chiefs are beatable this year. Yes, we got to wait on the status of Patrick Mahomes and see how that ankle is going to hold up. But they have not looked like the same Chiefs team that we've seen over the years. So for the rest of the AFC, now is your chance if you think that you could actually beat the Chiefs in the postseason. But again, that's going to be easier said than done knocking down the Chiefs, because if history has shown us anything, we know Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to have something cooking for January. They already punched their ticket. They already won their division. And now they're going to see if they can hold on to that number 1 seed in the AFC. And if so, once again, the road to the Super Bowl will run through Kansas City. Number 3, you got the Detroit Lions. Oh boy, Lions fans. Not only do you have a heartbreaker of a loss on Sunday against the Bills, where the Bills put up 48 points on you, Jared Goff had an insane game, but every frackin' week, it seems like there is another devastating injury for the Lions.
Every morning I break my legs, and every afternoon I break my arms. At night, I lie awake in agony until my heart attacks put me to sleep.
And it wasn't just one injury this week, it was a multitude of injuries. They lost defensive starters, they lost David Montgomery, and this team is just decimated, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And yet, they still have one of the best offenses in the league. They can go toe-to-toe with any team. And at this point, I think they're just gonna have to score 40 points a game just to make up for their defense right now. And I know there's some doom and gloom amongst the Detroit fan base right now, and I think losing all those players, there's definite room for depression. But at the same time, the Lions are still in control of their fate. They can still win the division. They can still get the number 1 seed, which I think is desperately needed for them at this moment. And I still think they could beat any team within the NFC because not a lot of teams have a Josh Allen. And so while it is very disappointing for the Lions to get kind of everything they wanted in terms of positioning, to get back to the postseason and have all these injuries really starting to pile up, yeah, that sucks. But at the end of the day, as Dan Campbell said on the radio, they're going to put the best 11 on the field, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're still in great position to win that number 1 seed. They only have one real team that I think they have to worry about, and that's the Minnesota Vikings at the end of the year. But because of those injuries and the loss, I dropped them down a couple spots at number 3. We'll see if they can remain there. But as of right now, Lions fans, you might want to try out for your defense. I'm pretty sure they're holding open competition. Number 2, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles coming off a big win in the Battle of Pennsylvania, and it seems like friendships are being mended in the city of brotherly love.
I love you, man.
I love you.
Why don't we say that every day? Why can't we say it more often?
I just love you. I just want to go to the rooftops and scream, I love my best friend.
Jalen Hurts shutting up all the critics on Sunday, having a phenomenal game, one where they didn't even really need to rely on Saquon Barkley. We talked about this earlier, that phenomenal final drive, which lasted over 10 minutes and killed any chance of the Steelers coming back in that football game. And the Eagles' defense has just been truly phenomenal this year. And the Eagles getting this win over the Steelers, especially through Jalen Hurts, I think shows the versatility of that Eagles offense, that yes, they can rely on Saquon Barkley and just run with him a million times, or you can have Jalen Hurts win you the game. And I think especially after last week when there was a lot of criticism towards Jalen Hurts, Hurts needed to have this kind of performance. And honestly, I don't think there's a single team in the NFC right now that wants to play the Eagles. And for the Eagles, it was a great week 15 even outside their game. The Lions, they're beat up right now, they lost, and the Eagles, they have their sights set on that number 1 seed. They got some interesting games coming up, including against the Commanders, which I think should be a really interesting football game, as the Commanders and Eagles games usually go down to the wire. But as of right now, Philadelphia is looking like one of, if not the best team in the NFC. They're sitting at number 2, and the only reason they're not number 1 is because there's only one team that had a more impressive win in week 15. And that number 1, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills knocking off the Detroit Lions. Both defenses deciding to take the day off on Sunday. But boy, oh boy, the Bills had a phenomenal performance taking down the Lions, or at least whatever's left of them.
You can't defeat me.
No, I know. But he can.
Josh Allen having another phenomenal game, going up early, 14-0, 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. And while the defense, again, there's some concern there, there's not a lot of teams that can put up a ton of points like the Lions and the Bills. And for the Bills, getting Dalton Kincaid back and Coleman definitely helps things. And Josh Allen has just been on a tear these past few weeks. His name is getting a little bit louder in those MVP discussions. And it just feels like in this rebuilding year, the Bills might have what it takes to go all the way this time. I know we're not going to get too hyped just yet, but it just seems like there's a lot of momentum on the Bills side. Yes, they did lose to the Rams just last week, but Josh Allen was still sensational in that game, scoring 6 touchdowns just by himself. And if the Bills are able to get some resemblance of a defense back against some of these higher powered offense, the Bills could find themselves on a path to the Super Bowl, which honestly is pretty crazy considering that people were talking about, including myself, the Bills not even making the postseason this year, or it was going to be a battle to make it to the playoffs. But the Bills have proven a ton of critics wrong once again. They're sitting at number 1 in the power rankings heading into week 16. And like I said, maybe, just maybe, it truly is Buffalo all the way this time. And so just to recap, at number 1, you got the Bills, 2 Eagles, 3 Lions, 4 Chiefs, 5 Vikings, 6 Steelers, 7 Ravens, 8 Packers, 9 Buccaneers, and 10 Broncos. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be on this list? Who should be off of it? Let me know. You know, I find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at Tom Grossi Comedy, all social media, see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack, go.